Welcome to the School of Wedding Photography. I'm here with Amanda Marie Schwinghammer from Minneapolis in the United States.
Hi.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Good. Doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Amanda was one of 30 rising stars of wedding photographers by Rangefinder in 2015. How was that? Did that change things?
Yeah, that's funny. We had I'd be like, what year was it? 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it kind of came a point in my career that I guess I wasn't super confident yet in myself. And I feel like it was something that I got as an accolade that just like made me realize I got this. I'm good at this kind of a thing. So that is, I think, the most amazing thing I definitely got out of it is that I was just recognized by people who look at photography all the time and who really get to know like all the nominees and everything like that. And it was a complete honor and a complete shock, to be honest. But I was on the name, or I was on the list with a bunch of people that I knew like through the industry a little bit, just like I had taken workshops with some of them, and it was just like, oh my gosh, just to see me on the same list as some of those people was just, I was in an awe. So
Yeah.
it was great. As for what it's changed, I guess for me, like I've been booking about the same ever since. I've had to turn clients away for a lot of years just because of overbooking, but I really just think it gave me like the confidence to just keep going in the industry. That's the biggest thing I definitely got out of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'd like to talk about the industry, particularly at the
Yep.
moment. And I guess let's start with social media. What do you feel is happening there at the moment?
Our lovely industry, the lovely wedding industry that we're in. It's fantastic. What we do for a living is so incredible that we get to be a part of these people's lives for ever. Like even past their time. I mean, books get passed down to grandkids and their children and whatnot. And I think to us, it's such a special thing that we get to provide to people. However, with social media, I do think that things have changed a little bit with the industry. I think that I think there's become like a style, like an Instagram style, if that makes sense. So like I used to think, okay, there's documentary style, there's more of the old school traditional style, there's film, like bright and airy style, and then I honestly feel like there's an Instagram style. And I think that a lot of photographers have been kind of shooting for Instagram, which I catch myself doing as well sometimes. So I think that social media is making the industry better and worse at the same time. Just because essentially it's making people want images. It's making people realize that hiring a professional photographer is something that they want because, they put their images on their social media account and they see all these things that could happen, like getting married on a mountaintop and all these things. They're getting more ideas. They're realizing they can do anything. But then again, they're also being kind of like lied to at the same time because a lot of these images that we see are models of their photographers hiring models to shoot on the mountaintops or in a bedroom straddling each other and stuff like that. And and storytelling has gone from a really quiet moment that we don't have any part of to being like, I'm a storytelling photographer and I am telling my client to spin each other around on a mountaintop and in the sunshine. And then it's just not really a story if you're telling them to do it, basically. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Okay.
However, I'm grateful for it because I want to end on a positive note because I do get a lot of clients through Instagram. I keep my Instagram really like portfolio driven. So I'm like, I don't put a lot of myself on there. Like some photographers do, which by all means they should and they can if that's what they want to do. But I have gotten a lot of clients through it and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the friends I've made through it and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's probably a bit of a balance between the desire to run a business and the desire to be an artist.
Yeah.
How do you
No,
how do you
yeah,
manage those
absolutely.
two things? If
Right.
the business is pulling you towards having an Instagram look,
Yeah.
but your artistic self is going in a different direction, what do you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good question. And it's like, what do you do to like, you need to put images on there to please people. You need to put images on there that match with the rest of your Insta. All your squares are perfect and whatnot. But also like, I don't know, you can't shoot for Instagram. And that's what I'm worried that's happening. And that's been happening for a really long time. And like,
Okay.
let's be real, like it's not hard to buy a Canon like D6D or like a Nikon D7000 or even D750, which is like not even that expensive of a camera, and to go and shoot. It really is not. And then to buy all these presets that are available and then start your own business, turn your current Instagram profile that you've had for years that has, 4,000 followers from being in high school,
Yeah.
and then turn it into and you know what I mean? And you just automatically have all these followers. And then it's not hard. It isn't. And it's not hard, to make them look amazing and make them look in the moment. But like what clients are forgetting is that there's more to it than just like a really pretty Instagram square. There's so much more to just the business in general that they're missing by just getting blinded by the prettiness of Instagram.
Yeah.
So
how do you approach Instagram?
I approach it with I try to stay positive. I try to kind of stay off of it, to be honest. Just because I do fall into that like comparing game that I think a lot of people do. I mean, it's just a known thing in our industry that we try not to compare ourselves to each other. And I think that just brings you down to a rabbit hole when you're constantly looking on Instagram. But I approach it as like I said, like a portfolio. So I share, of course, I want people to know I'm active and that I'm shooting, but I also want to keep it real. I want to make sure that everything I'm posting on there isn't a forced moment or something I told the client to do. I mean, unless like, obviously, engagement sessions are different. Engagement sessions are going to a field.
Yeah.
Going somewhere and like posing people their portrait session, whereas a wedding is something you're really just documenting, and then you have your portrait session time. So when I'm posting, photos from a wedding, I'm trying to find like those quiet moments that I just caught by like not even have to do anything. Those are my favorite. But I also try to mix in a little bit of, like portraiture as well to show clients that I do beautiful, timeless portraiture. And then for engagement sessions is a whole different story, just because it is all a little bit contrived. But even in that sense, I'll still try to post like a photo of the portrait and then maybe a photo of their like feet walking or something like together. So it's like a little storytelling, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
But yeah.
So I've forgotten what I was going to ask you. So if you're not sort of, let's say, playing the Instagram game, how are you running your business? Where are you attracting people from?
That's an awesome question, just because I constantly am like fighting with that. Like, I've always been like, I'm going to get off Instagram. I'm going to have Instagram. But I'm like, I would sabotage my business. I don't know if you ever feel that way too. But like I said, so I've gone through moments of like saying, okay, I'll up my game on Google. So like Google's still a way that I get a lot of clients too. So I would say like my top inquiries come from Google, word of mouth, or Instagram are my top three for sure. Yeah. So I spent some money on getting up on Google, and I used to do that all myself. I used to just do alt texting and everything like that myself. Back when I lived in Portland, I did a lot of that stuff. But then when I moved to Minnesota, I kind of changed around my SEO game. I was able to get myself up on page 3 in Minnesota, but then as soon as, I don't know, something happened with Google, and then it just like slowly, I changed my template on Profoto, and then everything just went awry from there. But I hired a guy, and it was so worth it. He got me back on page, I toggle between 1 and 2. That's definitely a way. And I think that's like it's a really classic, timeless way to keep up with business, is that, because like not all people are on Instagram, and there's a lot of my clients that are like not Instagram users, so that's why they're not finding me on there, which is, so that shows me right there, okay, let's keep up with this Google thing, because that's something that's just always going to be there. Whereas Instagram, who knows, people might just kind of fall off that whole train. Have
you noticed the sort of do you get a certain type of client through Instagram versus through Google?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and I would say the people that find me via Instagram are definitely more of the selfie types. They more document the things they do around the city. They Insta story a lot more. And then the people that find me via Google are a lot of like creative. So like I get a ton of ad agency and like tech people, because we have a lot of small startups in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So a huge crew of my clients are, or weirdly, residency people that are in residency for being doctors and whatnot. Those all find me via word of mouth or Google, and it's so rare that I hear, I don't know. And I guess I don't know, the people that find me through Instagram, I'm not sure what their occupations are exactly, but they're just the type of people that just post more and share more of their life to the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I guess in a way might end up being useful for your business if they're posting your images.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like another thing too, I guess we should maybe talk about is that, for instance, we're on the Instagram talk, is that there's so many people that buy likes and they buy so, like, and I know this because I'm in the creative industry. I know that, but clients don't. And it's like, do I play that game? Do I play that game and just hire a company to just like do the follow unfollow thing for me? And then, but I'm like, I don't think I want to be a part of that problem.
What's the follow unfollow thing?
It's like companies, you can hire them they follow people and then you go in this rhythm where they unfollow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like Rise Social's one and like, what is it? Statalytics, I think is another one. So you pay them a monthly and they're real people. It's just that they run your app for you essentially. And they go on, they like images that are like hashtags that you give them and stuff like that. And then from there, then you get more followers. They're real people. They're not bots, or they say they're not bots. I don't know. But then you'll say for me, I tried it. I tried it for a month and I was like, it was like all like makeup artists that had like three posts and they just looked like there's not real people following me with like all these names that have like emojis. I'm like, I don't want my clients to think I have fake followers. So I like stopped. I put the kibosh on it. Yeah. And then I noticed like all the followers that I've got from them, it just went right back down. So that's what they do. They just follow and unfollow those accounts that are part of the program, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I see a photographer that has 15,000 followers, I'm not fazed by it, but I know that a client would be. He'd be like, whoa, so-and-so has 15,000 followers. It's so impressive. Everyone loves them. Yeah. And I'm like, do I play that game or do I sit here with my 5,000 that's been sitting there straight for months because I haven't been doing anything? Yeah. So it's hard. And it is something that our industry is starting to talk about a lot, though. And it's like you hear all the time, so-and-so's taking a break from social media, right? Do you ever see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in my mind that if it's something you need to take a break from, maybe it's something that you just need to reevaluate out of your life. And same with that's telling myself that too. My husband tells me that all the time too. He's like, if you wake up and you look at Instagram right away, you're not in as good of a mood as if you would have been if you just wouldn't have opened your app, kind of.
Yeah.
But
I think that instinct of reaching for the phone first thing in the morning puts you in a bad mood anyway. Doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then just it's getting back to the basics for me too. I always talk about how I miss the bare bones Facebook. Do you remember when it was just photos and updates and, it was and you would see people's photos that you loved and adored and you saw your niece or nephew at the farm and I miss that so much and now it's just not that way anymore. And then I also think back to my bare bones as a photographer. I mean my first wedding I shot was in 2011. That's not even that long ago. It's 7 years ago. And I shot way less photos. I paid attention way more and I let the couple do way more of their own thing rather than me direct them because I essentially feel like my brain's gotten flooded with that like Instagram have to have this epic photo thing. And I just want to look like sometimes I look back on my old weddings and I'm like, A, what was I thinking with that edit? And B, like I just let them be. It's a real moment that I took. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It is a different feel. No. I mean, I think it's an important conversation. So, what have you decided to do with the buying the likes and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, when did I decide to do that?
No. Are you still doing it, or you decided not to? Yeah.
No, I tried it. An industry friend told me about it. They're not photographers. They're just an industry friend. And I'm like, what are you doing to get all those followers? And she's like, secretly, okay. So she told me about it. So I tried it myself. And like I said, I think I had it going for like 2 weeks. And then I literally disarmed or whatever my credit card. I took it off file because I emailed them and was like, please stop my service right now. And they had already paid for like the 1 month or whatever. So I just completely took my credit card off of the service. And then they were like, error, there's an error, your account's not working. I'm like, it's because I took my credit card off because I wanted these likes, these followers to stop. So now I'm not doing anything. I have a girl that she works for me part-time. She runs part-time my account and then my other business account. And then she'll go in and post for me, and then she'll go on and like people that I already follow, just to like people not so, now people are gonna watch this and be like, oh, Amanda, you're not even looking at our photos or whatever. But like I just know that like I want to give back to them too if they're giving me likes and stuff like that. But I do go on sometimes. I'm not completely obsolete from it, but I find that paying someone to do a little random like jobs for me like that gets me more refreshed, and then I'm not doing it so often. So
Yeah, yeah.
but
I think if
yeah,
there's one thing I've learned from Google and Facebook, and that is that they are active about making their platforms better for users, and I have no doubt that at some point there will be a change to their algorithms, and they will be penalizing these people that have got huge amounts of likes that are fake, and accounts that are sort of doing the unfollow follow thing you mentioned.
right. I think so too, and I hope so, because I just like I want it to be real as much. Like I said, I want social media to go back to the bare bones where people were just being themselves and not this. And Facebook isn't even as bad as Instagram. Instagram's crazy with like the influencers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I hope so too. I really do, because I think it's such a wonderful platform for people to meet and for people to just, I don't know, like to find services and to see what restaurants look like on the inside and see what kind of like the food. I love that about social media.
yeah.
So yeah, I hope so.
Just become a bit sort of skewed lately.
Yeah,
Maybe needs to get back
yeah.
to reality. Yeah.
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 Be real, world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stepping out of social media into sort of the wider industry,
Okay.
I was speaking to a photographer recently, and they were mentioning the impact that a lot of new photographers are having on the whole industry by sort of not setting prices right, and just having bad business practices. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot lately. As much as I say don't go on Instagram, but been seeing a lot of people reaching out to like their audience to just talk about pricing and undercutting. I think it's huge in the destination business, the destination wedding world, which I used to do a lot more of. I used to travel for almost probably like 70% of the weddings I shot, I traveled for, but now I travel for like 2 a year just because I have a baby and everything. I want to be with her.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, to say there's a lot of, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of really talented people coming into our industry. Like there are, like they're going and picking up these affordable cameras,
Yeah.
and they're buying the presets, they're buying the workshops, and they're doing all this and that, and they're figuring it out, and they're freaking talented, but they're also undercutting us. And for me, I'm like, okay, I understand. Like, yes, I can fight with them, or I can keep doing my thing, and I can show my client like the service that I'm providing them there's a lot of years in the game that you will see on your wedding day. But they don't understand that when they're just looking at portfolios and meeting with you in person. So it's almost like I feel as though I have to kind of like to say that in a meeting nowadays, is you're not just paying for the photos on the day, you're paying for the experience prior. Like all my 7 years of experience shooting a wedding, how, I do schedules for you, and I have professional gear. I know how to deal with file sizes, all these things that these younger people don't really quite understand yet. And then with the pricing of them, they're thinking in their mind. I remember my first year, I was awful at what I did, but I think my first few weddings I charged like $800 or something, and then I slowly raised from there. And I remember thinking in my mind when I was at like $1,500 that was a lot of money. It was when I was in my 20s. So they're thinking, if they're charging $2,000 per wedding and they're really talented, that's a lot of money. And then in turn, it's ruining the people that have been around for a while, and it's ruining their future selves. That's the most important part. It's ruining their future for themselves by turning our industry into something that's, like they don't understand that shooting 20 weddings a year at $2,500 is not enough money to live on in the future.
Yeah.
Now it might be for them, but in the future it's not. And then they hope to grow. I'm sure they hope to be $3,000, $4,000 someday too. But at that point, it's just like kiboshing our entire industry.
Yeah, I mean, a market is not going to sustain
Yeah.
a lot of people rising their prices. It's not
Yeah.
going to work like that. It always
Yeah.
tapers out.
And that's for me. I did a workshop a year ago with this girl, Kate Becker Photography. She's wonderful and amazing. We did a workshop and we like really kind of like honed in on the pricing and like how to just price yourself, showing them what is going to happen to you in the future if you just continue, if you keep charging this price, and if you're scared to raise your price, if you're not charging what the rest of your fellow photographers are charging. And it's like I want to scream to the rooftops because I don't know if I'll be a wedding photographer probably ever, but I don't know if I'll shoot full time. I mean, I built this studio that we're in right now, so I didn't have to shoot weddings full time, but they might want to. And a lot of my colleagues they're couples, the husband-wife teams with babies, they're having a hard time booking now because they're $5,000-6,000, and then people are having a hard time seeing the difference between this $2,500 person and then this $5,000-6,000 person.
So how do you, if you, let's say you are a $5,000 or $6,000 person, so someone that's has realized the maths of of the business, how do you set yourself apart, or how do you explain the difference to a client?
I think it's from what I learned from Spencer Lum and all of his workshops and everything. He's brilliant. You have to like you don't create a problem for your client, but you have to you have to hear them out, and you have to find something they're concerned about, or of some of the about their wedding day, and then you have to be the hero. So, are you concerned about your family photos being hell? Because everyone is. You let them know, like, okay, I get mine done in 15 minutes, and I bang it out faster than and I show them examples of, I bang out giant families, and I have a formula in my head, and I have your list ready, and I have it memorized and stuff like that. So I kind of try to find something, and I show them my experience. And honestly, I love when they ask. I used to hate when they would ask you technical questions like, what are your file sizes, and how do you deliver your images, and how or questions about insurance, stuff like that. And now I'm like, I love it, because I guarantee that I am showing them that I've been doing this for a long time versus the person who's done one wedding season or whatever. So and if they're talking to me, their budget is within my price range. I show them my price ranges before we meet, so I'm not going to just like drop the ball on them. So if they were the type that was like, we don't really care about our photos that much, yes, go ahead with a $2,000 person, but then we probably wouldn't even be meeting, so
yeah.
But also, I mean, just like I have a couple friends here that are like really high-end photographers, and they show their worth in their website, their work. They're just really their clients themselves are just like more upscale looking, if that makes sense. Like just their work in general is just more high-end looking. They're not, I mean, there are storytellers for sure, but they work it really well, that they book the high-end clients and they make it work. But they just always talk about how it's just every year just seems to be getting harder with that. So as fewer people are having high-end weddings, I think is maybe what's happening too.
Is it that, or is it increased competition?
Or that, yeah,
or
probably
both.
that. Well,
Both,
but like, what I mean? Like the barn weddings are so popular right now. And I think a lot of like, the high-end photographers more so book more like maybe city weddings that are more glitzy and like ballroomy or something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't know how it is in Australia, I guess, but do you guys do all that stuff?
There's not so many barns in Australia. There's a lot of sheds with sheep in them, but
there we go.
That's not. I don't think I've done a wedding in a shed. Maybe I have. There's a lot of wineries. I've done
a wedding in a shed
with sheep.
I don't know if sheep are involved, but there's a lot of rural Minnesotan weddings that are like, screw it, I'll just get married in our backyard and use the shed as the reception venue. Hey, that's awesome. Like,
so in terms of, okay, we've talked about horrible pricing structures. What is? Yeah. Can you give us some sort of example of what a good pricing structure is?
I think it's figuring out your market for one, and knowing your worth is another. And I know there's a difference between just starting like your first year and then being in your like second or third year, but I think it only takes 2 to 3 years to be at the level of like, just like almost to like the level of the people who've been doing it for like 5 to 6 years. I know it sucks for us, but it's just the truth. There is a part that the market does cap out, like for me anyway. Like I guess if I go up to my starting price is at $6,000 here in the United States. Would I book a lot of the clients I do, like the down to earth kind of clients that want the storytelling images as much? Maybe not. I would probably have to like shift around my look a little bit more of my photos, and not be so like rustic or like, grainy and like, I don't know, but a good price, I think, for a person, if I was to give any advice for a person that's starting out, is build your portfolio at like a half price. So say offer yourself at a discount. That way you're not looking like you're so, like you like have a portfolio building starting price. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So, like say I'm $3,000, but hey, it's my portfolio building year and I'm offering $1,000 off this year or something like that, just to like show that that's what photographers cost. I'm not saying everyone's going to do that, but I think it is a way to help for the future and to keep the industry going along.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of photographers have said the same thing to me, that actually starting off at more realistic prices is a wiser thing to do, rather than sort of just going rock bottom and trying to build up.
Absolutely. And then also, start with professional gear. Like, I mean, speak to the choir here, because I started with my first camera ever. I mean, I bought a D700, a Nikon D700, I think, a month before I shot my first wedding, and I had them booked, but I didn't upgrade to a professional camera until right before. And I wish I could kick myself back then, because I just slowly built from there, and I wasn't showing up to these weddings fully prepared.
Yeah.
And that's up to us as this, people who have been doing it for a while, that we preach to them, the people that are just starting out and learning things, that you have to start off professional. You have to bring backup gear, and you have to back up your cards. Like all the times I hear about the younger photographers, I always say younger, not even necessarily, this first starting out photographers are losing files because they're not double shooting their cars, because they can't afford like the XMP card, and then those are expensive and they're an investment. So that's what I want to preach, is just, you have to take these people's days seriously. And it's like, I understand, like if their budget is only $1,000, that maybe they know that they have this risk of potentially having crappy photos or whatever, and they don't care. That's a different story. But I think being honest with people and just being really prepared is something we should all preach to the choir. I feel like I said that like a million times, but you see what I mean.
Yeah. So in terms of building how long have you been shooting as a wedding photographer?
Since 2011, so I'm in my 7th or 8th season now.
Okay, and you do see this continuing for years to come. Yeah. How do you what do you think are the ways that are going to make it sustainable as a career, apart from having the right pricing?
For me, I've always talked about, and this is what I did when I spoke at Canada Photo Convention. My whole thing was about like relationships and building relationships with your client from, engagement meeting until forever kind of a thing. And I have a lot of clients that come to me every year for photos. That's kind of how I sustain myself. And I mean, I used to shoot 33 weddings a year, and then I went down to, I think 25. And then the year I had my baby, I went down to 15. And then this past year I went back up to 20. However, I don't want to do that forever, because I want to be around for my child and my family and everything. But my way to sustain my business and to make up all the income I did last year, so I had 15 weddings last year. It's 5 to 10 shorter than I usually do. I have made the same income by doing portrait session. I reached out to like local businesses. I did a lot of like social media content, image, photo shoots for like jewelry companies, or I shoot a lot for this company in the United States called Land O'Lakes. And I don't have a contract with them, although I would love to, but I shoot a lot for them. They contact me kind of anytime they need a headshot, or they need like blog images and stuff like that. So it's just kind of finding other things to shoot. What else are you good at, and what else do you love, and what else makes your heart pitter patter like weddings do? Me, like I love shooting families and kids and babies and stuff like that.
You've started a new brand recently called Bundle Studio, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're there right now, actually. So, this is my office and my studio. Yeah, so I want to build, because of this it's a great segue into this conversation, just because I am scared of what's happening in the wedding industry. I could never work less than 30 weddings a year and only shoot weddings and sustain a income for my family. And my husband works too. I'm lucky to have a working husband as well. But I wanted to build something something that was scalable.
Yep.
So I had two ideas whether I was going to add on associates. And that's another thing I feel like it's kind of not ruining the industry, but it's been hard in the industry because adding associates is taking business from a lot of other people. Did you hear that ding? I have it turned off and it still went off.
No, I didn't hear it.
Sorry. Like so-and-so has 4 associates. So every time I used to get, a pass along from X photographer, and then we'd share I'd be like, I'm booked, go to her. And then we'd book up with each other, whatever. This isn't anyone in town, but this is just something that is just an example. And then they're bringing on 4 associates. So they're not ever sending any work out. They're only taking it all for themselves. And great for them. That's smart. It really is good for you, but it really is going to it's going to saturate it a lot more. But anyway, so for me, it was between that and then building a studio that was for kids, because I think that there's a big market in our industry for fast, all the time mini sessions, if that makes sense. So do you guys do mini sessions in Australia?
I've seen it around a bit. Yeah.
So it's just, my clients are always contacting me and saying, oh my gosh, so-and-so is 6 months, Jack is 6 months old, tomorrow. And I haven't even gotten his 6 months shoot scheduled. Is there any way you can just do a quick mini session? I hear that all the time.
Yep.
So I'm like, ding, ding, why don't I just kind of offer short sessions, especially for the 6 month sessions? Because you literally need 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. You can get the smiling, adorable baby that's chubby. You can get 30 awesome photos in 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you fill it with changing time and snack time. And then, so that's that's the idea of bundle. And then I'll be shooting more, just weekdays. So then I can take weekends off if I ever need to. And then the idea is that I will scale back a little bit on weddings, but I'm going to always shoot them. So I'd like to shoot 10 to 15 a year, every year. And then just focus on bundle and then scaling that. So making another location and then, adding on associate photographers for this and whatnot. So
is bundle focusing on babies, or are you sort of going to, family shoots and maternity or things like that?
Yeah. So right now I'm doing anything that's outdoors still through Amanda Marie Studio. So whenever I have a client that contacts me for a full family session, their kids are 3 and 5. Then I'm like, let's book through Amanda Marie Studio. So I'm doing an outdoor portrait session with them in the sunlight. And I love shooting that. But I will, right now for bundle, we're just doing newborns in 6 months to 1 year, or to 2 year, to 2 year. So there's 2 options. It's just a newborn or a 3 month plus session. So it's just 2 prices.
Okay.
And it's just because I want to keep it really, the whole website, if you look at it, it's super simple. And I just have this all white studio, if you can see, with just a white wall and a white floor. And then I have cute little simple outfits that we put the babies in if people desire. But the idea is that it's quick and fast. So then parents aren't blinking their eye and also their child is 2 years old and they've missed the photos. So
are you doing bundle as a way to add income, or because you want to sort of give yourself an option because of the wedding industry?
A little bit of both, for sure. I'm not looking to get rich and never work again off of this. But I think for me, it's as I've gotten older and have had kids and everything, I'm just time is worth a sell. If I can create something that I can be more hands off, which is what the studio should be. Once I already have a girl. She's amazing. She's an associate shooter for it, and she'll take on more jobs as we grow. Then I can hire someone else, and then I'm more hands off, and then I can go to the beach with my child and not check my email at 9 p.m. because that's what I do. And it does not ruin, but it does have a little bit of attention on my relationship with my husband sometimes. And even I feel for me as a mother, and because you have kids, right?
Yeah, too.
Yeah. So it's, and I want to be there. And I'm okay, she's young and I'm still fresh in this. I'm I've got a lot of energy still for this business. So I want to build this now and then hope that it just becomes big enough in the future where I can just work part-time here and then let it just run itself, and it'll be a little bit more of a passive. I also want to add in bundle lab, where it'll be maybe videos where I can sell videos. That whole scale of the passive income thing right now is so huge online, and I've always loved teaching and I've always loved in my giving my insight. Like I just like, and I'm a preacher, so I like preach about like this is what things should be. Like I'm a true like liberal American, but I also like I do it for a reason. I do it because it's not just for me being selfish, but like for instance, me preaching about like how Instagram and underpricing could ruin our future industry. I'm not doing that just for myself. I'm doing that for the whole shebang
of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. So,
are there other things you think we all could be doing in order to sort of prop up and sustain the industry rather than sort of just working in isolation?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think for the social media side of it, I think it's just like ask yourself first, why are you posting this? Are you posting it for yourself? Or are you posting it for your client? Why are you shooting this? Is it for yourself or is it for your client? Like, you know, are you taking them away for 30 minutes on their wedding night so you can get awesome sunset shots? By the way, I'm a complete advocate of that. But sometimes you have to read on your client, like, do they really want to do it? If they don't, you need to let them just not do it. And of course, you got to talk about it later. But,
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I just got like a weird sound.
Yeah, I think someone started drilling near me.
Okay. Gosh. I didn't know if that was on my end or yours. Okay.
Well, I'm hoping that that goes away, that sound.
Oh boy.
Is it loud?
The first one was, but now it's quieter.
Yeah, okay.
The first one was really loud.
Okay.
But sorry, where was I? Yeah, like it's asking yourself, why am I here? Like, don't ever forget that this day that you see 20 times a year, 30 times a year, however many weddings you shoot a year, just don't forget that that's their only day ever. And I think it's so easy for us to be like, oh, this person didn't have a great dress, or this person, so I won't post it, and this person didn't. And it's like, that sucks so bad because it's their day. And it's like, we cannot go in thinking, okay, I'm going to get something awesome for my portfolio here. And I'm going, leave those for your styled shoots, but if you have a client I have a lot of clients that are like, absolutely, we'll go out for, sunset, sure, take us away for a half hour. We want to get away from here, kind of a thing. And then I have others that are like 5 minutes max. I want to get back. And I'm just like, awesome. And I have other clients that are like, we'd rather not. And I'm like, that's cool too. And then I do tell them the benefits of it. I kind of show them, okay, this is the difference between daytime and evening. And then they're like, okay, we get it, kind of a thing. So, but I think it's just important to just remember that it's not our day, and it's not about the photography. It's like the photography is about the day. Like we're there to document. It's not, we shouldn't rely on photography to like run the day, basically.
Yeah. You mentioned the idea of bringing on associates to work in bundle. Is that something you've thought about doing for your wedding work?
Yeah, like I said earlier, yeah, it was. If I did do that, like I said, I don't want to add on like such a huge team that I'm just like completely taking over like all the weddings in Minneapolis, kind of a thing. I get that it's a little bit of a contradicting thing to say because bundle will shoot a lot of sessions every year, but I also think I'm giving clients something that a lot of photographers don't offer, and it's like all the time mini sessions. A lot of photographers only offer mini sessions like once every few months, or for like Christmas only, or for maybe Mother's Day or something like that. But I want to offer shorter sessions all the time. So that's a different story about that. But I have photographers that ask if I'd ever consider adding them on. I just haven't gotten to that point yet where I'm like ready to hand off that baton to someone, because it's trusting someone. And like I have photographer friends here who I would like trust with my life. But would they give the same service I would? Would they know what to do in a certain situation? And it's all under my name. So that just makes me feel a bit nervous, I guess.
Yeah.
So
do you think that this sort of pushing towards associates or having a collective business model is something that's happening more?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's how photographers are realizing that that's the only way they can grow. Like that's, if you shoot 30 weddings a year and that's really all you can physically and emotionally and mentally and everything else have to like handle.
Sustain, yeah.
How else? Because like my income, I'll tell you right now, I I've actually scaled back my hours because I used to offer starting only 10 hours was like my lowest, because I was just a true believer in showing up and being there for the day. And I'd never have the heart to leave in the middle of this toast if their coverage ended at like 8 and someone goes, all their timelines going over. And I don't want to ever have to talk to my clients about timeline on their wedding day.
Yeah.
It's obviously something I try to figure out prior in their, their photography timeline and whatnot. But
yeah, but you can't if things run over. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, like I haven't truly really raised my prices in like 2 years, just because I'm at this sweet spot of this specific client that I'm booking that I'm just so nervous I'm gonna not book that specific type of client if I raise my prices. And I hear it still all the time. I had a client that was like, we had a meeting on the calendar and they canceled the morning before because they met with another photographer that was way cheaper and they booked them instead. And I get it, but it just happens. And I'm always like, well, you didn't give me a chance to meet though. And you give me a chance to show you the value so that's the way I think a lot of people are growing their businesses and growing their income, because they're realizing that that's all they can do, really. So
yeah.
Like I guess I'd love to hear about you. Like, what about you? Because you still shoot a lot of weddings, don't you? Do you have any associates that shoot under you?
No, I just sort of farm out stuff that I can't do to other photographers. But I've been speaking to a few people lately, and this sort of idea keeps coming up. And now I'm starting to think, maybe I'm being silly. Maybe I should do something like this. But you can see the obvious problems with it. It's your brand name. It's massively reliant on the quality of the photographer, their reliability, their experience. And maybe there's a sweet spot where you can find photographers who hate the business side of things. If you're good at running the business and they just want to shoot, and they're happy to sort of, give up their autonomy in order to be able to sort of still work, but and get paid, but not have to run a business, then that might work. I can see that, but that's a lot of trial and error, and the errors are problematic.
Absolutely. It really is. And it is, I think, finding people that you can trust and just being a trusting human being in general. But I love sending my fellow photographer friends work. I love it, and they do the same for me. And that's what, for me, that'd be a loss for a lot, like my closest people here that we kind of trade the sending off. That one of them has added a couple of associates to hers, and I'm like, ooh, bummer. And but I'll continue to send work to her because she does amazing work, and I know her as a person. I know she'll treat a client great, and she's the same price point as me. And that's the one that I learned I had an internship back in 2010 or 2011, I think. And the first thing she taught me was to never, ever send anyone cheaper than you. Like, don't ever send a name to anyone that's way cheaper than you, because then that will also kind of ruin the standards of what people should charge, kind of a thing. And that stuck with me for a lot of years. Like, she taught me that. So.
Conversely, I have sent out names of people far more expensive than me, and I've had the client come back to me going, "What are you doing?"
you send them that are far more expensive. That's the way to make you look really good, huh? I'm kidding. No.
No, you've got to get someone sort of roughly the same as you.
Right. Yeah. Which sounds funny that we should all be kind of. How do you level your talent? How do you level the talent on your own? How do you say I'm as good as so-and-so? Or that's what's the hard thing is that. Yeah.
Pricing art, it's right. How do you do that? Yeah.
Right. And I saw actually there was a rant on on Instagram that I read of this photographer the other day that just was talking about how she's getting priced out by all these new photographers in her area who are really talented, and she understands it, but she just was like, you need to do the math. And she's like, I just really truly believe that in the United States, in a normal city, you should not be charging as a serious business, you should not be charging under $3,000 for a wedding. And I could not more agree with that. But then how do you gauge from there? Where you turn into $6,000 and when are you on the same level as a $7,000 photographer? And that is a good question to ask ourselves, is they're booking. So what can we offer? What step, pick their brains and ask about how to get to that point and what to offer and what to make themselves more valuable, I guess. So
Yeah.
because I'm middle of the road. My packages are anywhere from like my client usually spends anywhere from 4,500 to 6,000. I don't know if you want me to talk real numbers, but I'm open to that. I'm happy to. So
Okay,
that's
sure.
what my normal client costs, or spends and invests. But that includes like albums sometimes and all that stuff too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And where would you say most of your bookings are?
Where they are in like as in venue
Price
or
point.
in city?
No, price point.
Oh, price point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like between 4,500 to 6,000. 4,500 to 6,000
Yeah,
is usually.
okay. Yeah.
The average I would say is like like $5,000 is probably the average.
And what sort of coverage are you offering for that?
Well, last year that was a full coverage, and that would probably include like not a lot of my clients get engagement sessions anymore. I've noticed definitely a lot of times they're like, a friend's going to do them. I don't know if you hear that too.
Mm-hmm.
A friend's are doing an engagement session. That's fine, honestly, and then a lot of them I think just don't get one because they understand that that's like a portrait session. It's not like a true telling of story. But if I do run to a client that really wants just like a documentary, I'm like, well, let's think of something to do. Do you guys love a place to hike, or do you love fishing? Do you love going to the fair? Like, what do you love to do together? And then I'll document that, so we're not posing in a field at sunset.
Yeah.
Even though I love that too, I'll do that too. But I think it just helps make them feel like the whole thing is a story. But then that includes full coverage, and then sometimes an album. The album, obviously, if they have an album, it's higher than the $5,000. But then this year, like I said, I went down to 8 hours. I'm starting at 8 hours this year, and then I will add on more if they need it. But I'm just kind of being like, just book me at 8, and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Kind of. So then they don't feel like they need to make those decisions right then and there.
Yeah.
9 out of 10, they're going to need another hour or two, I think, just because 8 hours always puts you somehow right at the end of dinner. You know what I mean? And then you're eating, and then you're like, see ya, like your last cover of your guest eating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I actually hate that last sort of half hour being me eating and then going, all right, now I'm out of here. So
I'm
getting paid to eat. Yeah.
Oh, and then I'm too like my heart can't let that happen. So I'm always like, oh, I'll just stay for another hour, and then I'm like, oh, so then it turns into like a 9-hour day for the same price as I would, for less than I would have charged for a 10-hour day or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it's like I said, that comes with the experience too. It's just like being prepared for that and knowing your day, knowing the timeline, and just telling them, hey, there's a good chance your day might run off a half hour. Even if you have the best wedding planner in the world, it still might go that way. And then I just really recommend one more hour just to ensure that I'm there. And I don't think any client would ever say no to that, unless they really didn't care about having those dancing photos and whatnot, which is rare. So
yeah. If you were starting again now as a wedding photographer, what advice would you give yourself, or what would you do?
Okay, I would. First off, I would try to maybe just stay for the first few years. I would probably just try to like stay clear of the Instagram world, even though I wasn't around a lot, and I know I'm going back to that a lot, but just that comparison thing. I feel like there was a smidge of time that it kind of killed me a little bit. It killed my vibe and my work a little bit. And once I stepped back, I feel like I got myself back a little bit.
Yeah.
I would remind myself more often that it's just not about any accolades.
Was that about being too influenced by?
Yeah. Too influenced by what's posted.
What's out there? Yeah. Okay.
And sad that, they're booking weddings in Europe. Why am I not? And stuff like that. And I just don't feel like that should matter, because I truly know that like I'm like my business is like successful and that I do a good job and my clients love me 99.9% of the time. I don't want to say 100%, but it's like I just try to do well for them, and like so and then another thing, to be honest, this is funny, but I probably would have started with Canon. I don't know about you. You shoot Nikon, don't you?
Yeah.
Or no? Yeah. And like I love it, but if I could get the D700 back with a double card slot, I would take that any second. I loved that camera and the tones of it, but there's no double card slot, and it's just like a beast. It's like a heavy beast.
Yeah.
But so my associate here at the studio, that shoots with Bundle, she shoots Canon. So when I edit her photos, and when I have a second shooter that has Canon or whatever, I do notice a little bit of a better skin tone that I like, that I prefer. And it's like a little bit less like neon-y or a little less, it's a little bit more tan looking rather than like pink or red, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and then plus just, I think it's just more compatible with a lot of other photographers, I think. So, but I'm never going to get to be an ambassador for Nikon after this interview with Mike. But don't get me, I upgraded I upgraded the D850, whatever, right when it came out, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But the file sizes are so big, and I miss the like my computer is just constantly like rendering and like the pinwheel, because it's just like, it's not full. I mean, I obviously use an external hard drive, but there's just the file sizes slow it down, and there's no reason why any client needs a 36 megapixel file for their wedding, their dance photo, you know. And I do use the medium. Do you use the D or the D850 now?
No, I've got, what have I got? I'm on a D4, and
those
I can't even remember the other one. Yeah, I can't remember the other one.
Don't those have 16 megapixels, the D4?
I think so. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's a good camera. It's about, the file size is enough.
But it's like this bit, you know. It's huge.
It's chunky.
Yeah. But anyway, I would probably do that if I was starting over. And then also like slowing down on like that splurging on gear that I wasn't positive I needed. And I think every photographer goes through this, like the game of playing and like all the presets that I've purchased that I've literally used one time and been like, this thing is garbage, and then I don't, but then I keep buying new ones because I go through a rut with it, because I use my own preset. I just design my own ones, and then I'll edit 10 weddings with it, and it'll be like the golden preset, and then something changes, I don't know what it is, and then like you have a day with like weird colors or lights off or something, or like the seasons change, and then all of a sudden and then I'm like I want something new, I want to change it up a little bit. And I think that like just going back and realizing that there's a lot of gear that I didn't need to buy that I would have been, I mean, I'm all about having professional gear, like I said earlier, and like having backup gear and stuff like that, but did I need a lens baby? No. I bought a tilt shift, which I use. I think it was worth the purchase, but that's a splurge lens, and I use it for 1% of the images I take. So because I just don't think there's time to take photos with a manual lens, and I'm not ensuring that it's in focus on a wedding day. Yeah. But yeah, I think the most important thing is like getting caught up in like what other people are doing, and I think that's a big thing in our industry. People constantly talk about it. Is just the compare game. It's just as humans.
Can you say that again?
It's our nature as humans to do that.
Yeah.
As artists to do that, to just compare ourselves with one another. So.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's, I think it's wise when you're starting to sort of copy in a way, to copy sort of great people, great photographers or painters or whatever. But at some point you have to get out of that and have learned what you need to learn from them and move into your own sort of arena.
That is a really good point. Yeah, because obviously it has to start somewhere. And what I've tried to do, I try to turn like comparison back into like, okay, why am I comparing? It's obviously because I love what they're doing. So can I before it turns into me comparing and being negative, can I just be happy for that person? Just double click that photo and like it,
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is just before it gets to be too sad for you, just celebrate that person instead, because comparison comes from some sort of envy or something like that, or desire or want.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, admiration. Yeah, or something.
Yeah, and admiration is a better. That's kind of the word I was fishing for there. Yeah, admiration for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and yeah, if we all just kind of get to that point where we're just be like, okay, I admire that person, yay, and then move on.
Yeah. I don't need to become them for.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. And there's other people around the world too. It's like, I live in a city, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's like a rural city, and then there's people like you. You guys live in, like in a probably mountainous area, or like, Jim Pollard and his mountaintops. Like that's like, I can't do stuff like that. Like, so what else can I do that's great? What else can I offer like my clients that is unique, is just as unique?
Yes. Yeah. So it's got to be. It's got to work for you and your environment and everything. It's got to be tailored.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What questions do younger photographers usually ask you at workshops or when they meet you?
Oh man, a big. Well, first I just get like like around like how did you start is like the biggest thing I get. Like they want to know the story of how I started, how I booked. That's for sure how I booked is like the biggest thing. And then
How did you
editing
book?
and
How did you book?
great question. I booked via Craigslist. That's how I
Okay.
started. The modern Tog would say that yeah, they're booking via Instagram now. I think a lot of them, but that's how I mean that's what I would tell. Like, so the I trained a girl. I was probably my fourth year or so in photography, and she asked to be my apprentice, and I kind of took her on and taught her the ropes, and now she's like full blown sailing. Her wings are spread, and she's flying solo and shooting like 15 to 20 weddings a year. And I just remember so clearly like stating to her what worked for me was just to spread the word. Like for me, I mean, I've always known to be like even in high school, people always like knew me as like loving photography. I like did the student teacher thing for photo, and I worked in photo labs all through high school and whatnot. So it was known. But then in college, like I kind of just like let it go. So then, and all these new friends from then on, for the next 5 to 8 years, didn't have any idea that I was into photography. So once I kind of like started posting cool pictures of flowers and like barns with like some ugly, really retro preset put on it, like people started to get that I was like kind of doing this, And I remember, I put the word out there on Craigslist, and I shot like 3 families for free. And I remember the first family I shot ever, and this story makes me just want to almost cry because it's just like takes me back. But one of their sons was autistic, and I shot their photos for free. And the first photo I took of them was like at the trunk of a tree. Like I had no clue where to put them, so I put them like at the trunk, so it's like them, and then like the tree trunk is like the background. It's just so bad. But I remember once I started like the autistic child wanted to just run free, and I was like, let's just let him do what he wanted to do. And I remember I took this photo of him running and laughing in the sunshine that I remember that like lit up everything I wanted to do. It was like, this is what I want to do. I want to photograph like people and kids and their love for each other in their element without me like posing them. And from there it just took off. And then the client too was just like, we've never seen a more natural photo of him ever in our life, and they were just so grateful. And that gave me a lot of feeling too, that kept me going and wanting more. It's like you crave it. I almost like craved photographing people. And then from there, I was $75 a shoot. And then I was, look at me, this is what I can do with people. What could I do for your wedding? And then I was posting, $800 to shoot your wedding on Craigslist. And then I did a Google ad my first year ever, that I booked 10 weddings my first year ever. And then I did Craigslist for the first like 8 or so that I booked. And then the last 2 that I booked that year, I did a Google ad, and that's how I booked those. And then from there, it was just literally the next year it was like 15 or so. And then it was a combo of word of mouth and a lot of friends of friends kind of a thing. So once I started putting it out there on Facebook, like I was saying, that like, look at me, I'm doing this thing. That's when people started talking about me and showing my work to other people. And then also them knowing that like, oh, she's just starting out, so she's probably not that expensive kind of a thing. So I'd get a lot of reach out for that.
Yeah.
And then that second year is when I did like my first destination wedding, and I traveled for like 3 weddings that first year, and that's when I got hooked on that. And then from there,
how did you get that first destination wedding?
It was my sister's friend from college.
Yeah.
She got married in the Dominican Republic. Yeah. And I was just like over the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of course. And then again, like I'm preaching about like, but I think they paid me $1,000 and they paid for my travel.
Yeah.
And then my travel was maybe, $1,000 to $1,500 or something like that. So they still invested, a decent amount of me back then in 2011, but to this day now with destination weddings, people are like, I'll do it for free. I'll shoot anywhere, because you want that for your portfolio or whatever. Or I'll do it just for travel because I want to go to Iceland or something.
Yeah. If I never see an Iceland photo shoot again, it'll be too soon.
I know, right? That plane. Oh man, isn't that crazy how that just exploded?
Yeah. It's still going though. Amazingly.
Oh yeah, it still is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I always tell people that I meet though is just get the word out there, like on your personal Facebook page, or tell your friends, and then from there they kind of do the work for you in a little bit of a way. And I even remember my friend, my Ellen, the girl who I kind of trained to to be a photographer, basically. She was just like nervous to I'm nervous. What are people going to think? I just woke up one day and wanted to be a photographer. I'm like, that's how you just do it slowly. You just start slowly posting random photos you're interested in, and then people will come. You don't even have to have a photo of a person. If they know you have a nice camera, they're going to ask you to shoot their wedding, like for cheap.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yep.
So that's the advice I give people if they want to start. And then from there, it's like, just better your craft for your clients and become a serious, like invest in education, invest in serious things like backup gear and contracts and insurance and all that stuff, which honestly, you should almost have that right away. But I get when you're just, a little budding photographer and you're just kind of shooting weddings on the side. I understand that. But yeah. That's a question that I get asked a lot. Editing is asked a lot. Like, how do I edit? How do I get the tones I have? And I honestly can't answer that. It's just, it's my tone curve and stuff like that.
Do you outsource any of that, or you do it yourself?
I do it all myself.
Yeah.
I'm scared to outsource, but I know I will someday. I just am getting to that point.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm too much of a control freak in that regard. I will likely outsource the bundle studio stuff once I get everything down, because I'm still learning. Like I've done probably like 8 test shoots, and then I've done like 2 real shoots in the studio. So this is really fresh, everybody. By the way, like I just opened like 2 weeks ago, but I'm still learning too. So at that regard, once I'm doing more volume, I will have to find someone who I can train and just be open with them. If they're not working, I have to just be like that brave person that's like, sorry, this isn't working. And that's the thing, as a business owner, you have to get there. And I'm really bad at that stuff, is I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And also the Midwestern Catholic thing too. Grew up Catholic.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
I'm so looking forward to this new studio space for sure. I'm actually really, it's like a whole new realm of the business of photography. So I'm relearning a lot of things, and I'm kind of refreshing my mind, which is so important for me anyway as a shooter. Is I like to switch it up. So I'm so excited to see where this goes, and just to see what, the one girl I brought on so far, just to watch her blossom and to see what she can do here, and to see like slowly what she'll take on for the business and like where she'll do well, and and then we'll find our niche, and then I'll do my thing and she'll do her thing, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this upcoming like next 2 months. I have a lot of weddings coming up. So, and like fall weddings are always my favorite, as is most people's, which is why. Just because it's not, the sun for one is like tilted.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I can just get great portraits at any time of day. And then also just it's cooler, and I don't have as many groomsmen bitching about their suits. And then girls wear long sleeve gowns, which are my favorite. The women are wearing long sleeve gowns. I don't know. I just love the vibe of fall. So I'm pumped for, and I'm excited to see where this future is taking us with photography. And like as much as I've said that's negative about the Instagram world, I really do feel as though there are a lot of veterans or people that have been around for a while that are starting to kind of preach a lot, to be like, hey, you're screwing things up for me and then your future self. So I'm excited to see to watch like who will stick it out, and who will make themselves better to like get our industry back up to where it should be. Because I do think that it's something that people are going to slowly figure out. And I think that people that really not matter in the industry, people that are like big named in the industry, people that have a lot of people listen to, maybe like Junebug weddings and all that stuff, like people that are well received will start to just like scream from the rooftops about it. And educate. It goes for everything. It goes for wedding planners who I know of and a florist. I have a lot of florist friends here in town who are like, I'm getting undercut by all these new florists in town, and I cannot sustain my business this way. So it's not just photography. It's just like I think people look at a lot of wedding industry as being this like freedom. Like if I make it to the wedding industry, I am free.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're a slave to me. You want. So I'm excited to see what like the next thing is, like the next trend in weddings. Like, is it going to be like, what's going to be the new thing again? Like, the barns were big for a while, and like, I think intimate weddings are definitely are already a thing, but I think that that's going to become a lot more. It's going to be a lot bigger, I think. Small ceremonies and then like maybe a reception later or something along those lines.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for your time. It was really good to chat. It was
talking
an
to you.
interesting
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Thanks
If
for
people
having
want,
me. It's an honor.
no, you're welcome. If people want to follow you, where can they find you online?
Yeah, Instagram is Amanda Marie Studio.
Yep.
Don't worry, I don't rant on Instagram. And then Facebook is also Amanda Marie Studio. And then my website is amandamariestudio.com.
Okay, easy. And
And I don't
bundle.
have Twitter. Oh yeah, and then my new website is bundlestudios.com.
Studios.
So Bundle Studio with an S
Yeah.
.com.
Okay, fantastic.
Unfortunately, Bundle Studio was like
Gone.
$3,000.
Oh, really? Really?
Bundle Studios, yeah. Just 'cause it's available. Maybe someday I'll buy that one. But
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Nicholas. It was so great chatting.
Thanks, Amanda. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.